everyone, and welcome to A Balanced Life with Dr. Jacquie here at Black Star Network. We are continuing our series on putting in the work, and today we're looking at a chef's journey. I know all you amazing kitchen cooks out there, you fabulous cafeteria workers, all of you with your grandmama's favorite cookie recipe are dying to discover whether or not you have what it takes not only to be an entrepreneur, but to turn this passion that you have for cooking and the culinary arts into an actual business. Well, today we're going to be joined by two amazing chefs who are going to talk to us about what it means to put in the work. We're joined by Chef Rahman Harper and also Chef Monica Smith. Welcome in, everybody.
Hey, Dr. Jacquie, good to be
Hey,
here.
y'all. I feel like it's old home week and we're having family homecoming.
That's right.
Right.
Family homecoming. Let's talk about this industry that you're in and the work that you're currently doing. For some of our audience, they may not be familiar with who you are and what you do. So I'm going to start with Chef Rock. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing out here in the DMV, since that's where you're located.
Yes, that's right. Thank you, Dr. Jacquie, for having me again. I am the chef and owner of Queen Mother's Kitchen, which is a fast casual fried chicken sandwich place fashioned after my mother, my grandmother, my Queen Mothers in Northern Virginia. And I'm the chef and owner of a new place, a rebranded place called Hush Harbor, where we are DC's first phone-free bar, where I'm really leaning into connection, presence, and community. And in both of those spaces, we're about serving the people. So we have food and beverage, but the core of all of my businesses or anything that I do is the people on this side of the counter and on the other side as well.
I love that. A phone-free restaurant. Yeah, let's see if we're disciplined enough for that. It's going to be exciting. I know, right? Chef Monica, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're located and what you're doing these days.
Okay, well, I'm Chef Monica, and I am in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I started out in the front of the house with the hospitality industry. And in 2009, when I lost my only brother, he completed suicide. I decided, I love how much I love to cook. I had to do something to anchor myself in a healing process. So I went back and got a second degree in culinary arts. I started out as a chef on TV. Figure that out. So what happened, as soon as I graduated from culinary school, I was approached by the Food Network and I appeared on Guys Grocery Games. I've done Cutthroat Kitchen. And from there, for 15 years, I did TV, live demos, celebrity guest events, as well as I started a spice line that now is I guess you could say discontinued. I'm not selling those anymore. That process is done. And so when I developed multiple sclerosis along the way, now I am using meal prep with a few clients. And I'm shifting to the digital world. So my thing is, I want to make sure I'm helping people navigate wellness through thoughtful innovation.
I like what both of you are saying, because it appears that passion for cooking and serving other people is at the driving helm of who you are and what you do. Chef Rock, you mentioned in your introduction, you said you're four mothers. So I know that there's a mama and a grandmama and probably a great grandmama back there somewhere who has forged this path to cooking for you. Where does your love for cooking come from? And how do you translate that into business?
Yes. Shout out to my mama and my grandmother, Carol Harper and Esther Harris. My path to cooking, I always enjoyed seeing my grandmother and mother cook, the way they could really influence or entertain a crowd of folks, or just us at the dinner table. That always intrigued me, because I was a jokester and I wanted to be a comedian. So round about middle school, 8th grade or so, I really fell in love with the idea of cooking, not because I thought it was going to be a great career, but my guidance counselor, when I knew I was going to college, my mother told me that. My guidance counselor said that there was no college for comedians. Like, I went and looked at our Google, which was the encyclopedia at the time, and there was the only thing I could find was like a clown college, like Bozo the Clown College, and I wasn't doing that. But I took a home ec class, and Mrs. Hill was my 8th grade home ec teacher. And it really opened my eyes up to the culinary arts. I made this lasagna. I took the lasagna home. Everybody was loving it. It was the fanciest thing I ever ate and made up to that point. And I really found out this was probably early 90 or 89. And so on the verge of the celebrity chef era, if you will, right before Emerald, I really found out that I could make a career out of this. And later on, I would understand that chefs would become sort of rock stars. So but what's at the core of my cooking, my love for cooking, is always the people. So I love entertaining, and food allows me really in places. I mean, if you to cook, Chef Monica knows this. If you got some food or you can cook, you can get in just about any door that's openable. So that was the start of it for me. And I always carry my mother and my grandmother and all of my sort of family and everything, that AI, that ancestral intelligence. I carry all of that with me at all times.
I like that. So let's have this conversation, because you both have talked about your way to get into the kitchen and food and all of those things. And Rock, you said home economics class. I literally felt myself being dated the moment that you said home ec. Monica, did you take home ec?
Look, when Rock said that, I thought, okay, Rock, we straight Gen X, we old school, because home ec is what they called it. And, they changed it to, I think, family, consumer, life sciences. Okay, home ec. So getting started in there, I had been cooking since I was 6 years old. My grandmother, I remember her teaching me how to make scrambled eggs. My grandmother, my mother's mother. And I thought, wow, this is great. I can actually do this. But for me, I was that kid that when the family got together, we in the Black household, we love a good talent show. So one of the things that I used to do was sing I'm a Little Teapot. Well, I was the fat kid. I got tired of singing I'm a Little Teapot. So I was the one that got into trouble all the time. But I said, this I can do. I can cook and not get in trouble. And everybody likes it. So I learned from both my grandmothers on how to cook. And my dad, my mom, I just watched, I tasted, I smelled, but when, like I said, after I lost my brother to suicide, I had to find something. And I was already doing catering, which was fine, but I really wanted to take it up a notch because I love serving people. I just love serving people. I mean, I'll be in a ballroom dress, and when the dinner's over, I'll start clearing the table, and people looking at me like, what are you doing? And I said, it's in the blood.
It's in the blood. When you think about both of the concepts of how you enter into a field, and for our viewers, you who are watching, this is where they're going to give you these tips. So I hope that you have your pen, pad, and digital device ready. Chef Rock, what are some of the key steps to really figuring out if this is a pathway for you? Because at the early onset, and okay, young people who are watching, this is not a dig. This is for everybody. When we first start out at things, there is this desire or temptation to just throw in the towel because there's so much we don't know. What are some of the things you wish you knew going into the space of culinary arts that no one told you, that you wish someone would have said to you?
Oh, that's such a phenomenal question, because oftentimes we start with the cooking, and this is not just, excuse me, our people, but it is most people that can cook, right? Because, you have, I can fry chicken like nobody else. And people say you should get into the fried chicken business so you can bake a pie. And the pie might taste great, but that's sometimes, and this was hard for me to realize, cooking and baking are probably the easiest parts and the simplest parts of your business, because you have to replicate it. You have to, you have to make money off of it. You have to manage people that are going to replicate it if you're not going to be there. So one of the biggest things that I wish I would have known was about the numbers, the financial part that goes into creating a restaurant. Also, the emotional toll that it takes on you. I wish that I would have invested, or at least my culinary school, or maybe even in high school, there would have been some investment into emotional intelligence and really preparing yourself, or myself as a young man, a young boy at the time, growing into a man, to understand the rigors and to know how to move about the world, because it gets really, really tough, and you're going to need that foundation to lean on as opposed to, many of us, right? That's why you see the fiery Brandon chef, right? I was on Hell's Kitchen. You see, we were taught when something doesn't go your way, you really do lash out. Like it's the old school chef, and that's changed, which is great. But that I wish I would have understood like some more emotional tools to be able to navigate this business.
Thank you for sharing that, Chef Monica.
Well, I tell you, one of the things that I used to, when I taught high school, I taught the food and nutrition class in the family consumer science, not home ec. When I taught my students there, they were so fascinated with the work that I had done, all the celebrities I had cooked with, all the TVs I'd been on. And to me, that part, it was like, I don't want people to take this. I'm trying to say it so it's taken in the right stride. That part was just easy. It was being around people. I'm a very extroverted person. I was always the one that got in the room. Hey, can you say this? Can you sing this? Can you welcome everybody? Can you bring them to the floor? Can you tell them how to eat? That was my thing. So being on TV and being with other celebrities, I was like, we all put our pants on one leg at a time. But I wish I had known, and I knew, but I wish I had really stuck my foot in my business plan, because you really need to have that before you come out the gate. You need to, and just like Rock said with the financial piece, when you get a business plan and you put everything down on paper, and I do pen and paper because I have pencil memory, and I just think that's the way you kind of just ingrain things into you. And you look at the numbers and you see how many pieces of chicken do I have to cook? How much bread do I have to bake so that I can make a profit and pay people? That is significant. And then the other thing is I didn't really fall into I'm a celebrity chef type deal. But the people that did, that was pretty much harder for me to deal with than anything after a while, because it just became exhausting. Mm-hmm. It became draining. And then after a while, it turned into other things. And you have to know who you are. If you have that plan that's already written, you got the numbers, like Rock said, you're off to a great start. Mm-hmm. And you can stay grounded in that and keep moving.
I appreciate both of you saying those things, because it really does matter. When we come back after the break, let's dive into those concepts a little bit, because it's not just about being in the kitchen. It's also about how do you stay personally and professionally balanced as a chef. We'll be back in a moment after the break.
Hello. I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase, and I'm here with a very important message. We are at a turning point in the Black community where we must have equity in the apps we use that scale to billions of dollars. But this time, we own the infrastructure, we own the culture, and we shape the future. And Fanbase is the future. Fanbase combines the free functionality of Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube into an all-in-one platform built for the evolution of social media and monetization. With over 1.4 million users, that's real proof that we are shifting the conversation of tech ownership and equity for creators. So right now, I want you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $665 a share. This marks a turning point in Black ownership of social media. If we don't take this opportunity to own social media right now, we will always be customers to our own creations. And that can't go on. So once again, go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. We must own the platforms where our voices live, our stories matter, and where our culture drives the world. Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone. And as you can tell, putting in the work and this journey to becoming a chef, becoming an excellent cook, becoming a fabulous tailgater, whatever it is that you're out there desiring to do, there's a process involved. And you have to be able to take care of not only yourself, the people around you, and the folks that you employ. So let's dive into that a little bit, because both of you have talked about the importance of staying grounded. start with Chef Rock, because grounding seems to be at the forefront of who you are, despite being on Hell's Kitchen, winning the season, doing all the great things that you've done. You have this humble spirit about you, because not only cooking is a part of your soul, it's a part of your passion. What do you do to stay grounded, personally and professionally?
Yeah, well, I think the easiest thing to do is you talk to your children, or maybe your siblings, and they don't want to hear nothing about no celebrity. Man, they're humble you real quick. But I think for me, it's been a journey, because being thrust into the public spotlight in 07, 08, season 3 of Hell's Kitchen, it was a big thing, right? You go from just chef in DC, I was working at B. Smith's, to, riding down the highway in Las Vegas and seeing your face and your name on a billboard. And it sounds cool, and it was cool, and it is cool. And I'm very grateful for the experience. It changed my life, but it is definitely an adjustment, right? You have to get used to new things, especially in a place like Las Vegas. So for me, I've learned to, at the end of the day, I am Rockmon Harper from the South Side of Alexandria, Virginia. And whether that's been, I've had reminders of that, like I say, with my children, my friends, my family, or that's been reminded to me. When you get into the business, at the end of the day, social media and TV, all of that stuff is cool, but you still have to run a business. You still have to be in relationship with people, and your celebrity, or your so-called celebrity, can never compensate for depth and real relationships that you cultivate over the years. So it's really about, what do you want? Because you can be the guy. I could be the guy that's, act like I'm a celebrity all the time. You can be that, and many people do, and more power to them. But your relationships, or how you move about the world, will be reflected back to you. So I love people. I love real connection. I value that. And so I have to reciprocate that real connection. And that keeps me going throughout my life.
I think that's important too, because it's how other people celebrate your successes along the way. And it's interesting. I want to say, I think I met you when you were at B. Smith, and God knows that it's been like several decades ago, but just to watch your growth in the path, you can see that it is a part of who you are, and you don't take opportunity for granted, and you've definitely not taken it lightly. I want to pivot to a second question, because one of the things that I do understand is the value and importance of giving back. How in your processes, especially being in the DMV and most of our cities with you too, Chef Monica, we have so much homelessness. Do you serve the community in that capacity, and what type of work have you done? Because I know there's chefs that are saying, I want to get out of the kitchen, I want to give back, but I don't know where to give back to and how to give back.
Yeah, I think service has always been ingrained in me from my mother, and I think that is something that, when I say community, and when we say community, like, there is no individualistic, this sort of American, sort of me culture that we grew up in. That doesn't work for me. Let me say that. So I always, sometimes to a so-called fault, I always figure out, well, this is our space, right? When I'm at Hush Harbor, formerly Hill Prince, like, how can it be useful in the community? If you want to, I had this one sister that she wanted to do a yoga event, and she was just charging maybe $25 or $40, and she had about 6 people. She can't afford $5,000 to do a minimum revenue. And who am I to say no? They just want to come in here and stretch and breathe, right? So this is our space, and I view my businesses as an extension of me. Even back when I, speaking of homelessness, I used to I volunteered, and I was on the board of directors, and I took a job, or I was offered a job, and I took it at the DC Central Kitchen, which is an organization based here in DC that feeds several thousand homeless people every single day. And I remember some of my celebrity friends used to come up to me and say, "Man, you work here?" And I really didn't understand it at the time. This is sort of that, non-celebrity thing in my mind. I'm like, of course I do. I care about my people. Like, I feel like I can do more, have more of an effect by being here as opposed to volunteering every month or so. Now, to each his own, everybody can't do that, but that's how much I care about and love us, is that I really put in the work all the time. And this is, I believe, my calling. So it's very important that we give back or find some way. And it could be, lastly, I'll say this. It doesn't have to be going and taking a job at a nonprofit. It can be however you see fit. It can be one sandwich a day given to somebody. It can be 20, but only you know what you can give, but you must give something.
I like that. Listen, I hope y'all heard that. You must give something. Everybody can't give the same thing, but it is equal, not equal in giving, but equal in sacrifice. Chef Monica, when you think about your pathway, personally and professionally, to balancing your career, balancing your health, how are you approaching it in this season of your life, and what benefit have you gained?
Well, what I've learned is that food, you really are what you eat. I have dug back into the science of eating, but I've also narrowed down a niche, which since I'm 55 and I like to say double nickels, I'm a dime piece. So I want to make sure we put that up. And so I have now started building a community with midlife women to help them with reset, reclaim their life in their second act, because we eventually reinvent ourselves. I find that when I've talked with other women, and it's just like, I know I can't be the only one going through this, going through health, loss, divorce, empty nester, a grandmother, and then you're in the sandwich generation. I mean, it's just so many things that hit us. But how do I keep walking? How do I keep moving? So I came up with a whole mindset called Men, how I got started moving in 8 minutes with a Men concept, mindset, exercise, and nutrition. And that is how I started pivoting towards leaving the kitchen on a full-time basis, from a full-time basis to part-time, or I guess you could say as much as I'm able to. It's just when your health gets impacted the way mine did, I had to come to grips. I had to accept what I was dealing with. I used to look at myself as I was less than, but I had to change that mindset, and I had to say, okay, how do you take this? How do you make it positive? I talked about my brother. Then I got multiple sclerosis. I was divorced. And then in 2020, my daddy completed suicide. So that has brought on this new wave here where how do you balance out all this stress, because things are going to hit you in life, but I still want to hold on to the kitchen, but I can't. I'm not able to move in it as much as I used to. I've had second-degree burns on my legs because I was working with a tilt skillet. I remember that day in the kitchen and I was making potato salad. And you know how you can see things happening and you can see it's getting ready to come, but you can't move? And I was turning the tilt skillet down and there was water, boiling water at the bottom, but there were potatoes stuck at the top. And I thought, okay, this is not, we got to stop. As soon as I got ready to back up from it, the potatoes released from the tilt skillet, landed in the boiling water and landed on me. Now, why do I say that story? One, it was a good thing that I had trained my staff. You have to be ready for things like this in the kitchen. We had to pull me out of my clothes. She had quit thinking. She iced my legs. She put gel cream on. I mean, we did everything. But when you have a compromised immune system as mine, the healing process is not the same. So when you are in the kitchen or you choose to be that, it sounds fun when you're watching mama, big mama, auntie, and everybody else going, and everybody's okay. But when chaos or something hits the kitchen, you need to be ready for that. And then how do you keep cooking? Because I had a sous chef who was in there who had years of experience on me. He was a great guy. And he kept his head turned. And I said, get the potatoes. We need the potato salad. We got to serve in 2 hours. So you have to know how you can handle stressful situations. How do you maintain yourself and still keep everybody fed? Because at the end of the night, everybody still wants that plate.
You make a very good point, because folks don't care that you had a disaster in the kitchen. They're like, okay, so where's my food? especially if it's one of those events that have been catered, or if you're at a gala or anything is happening, people often don't seem to understand that you all are under a tremendous amount of pressure, not only being able to put out quality food, but the toll that it takes on your body. I want to switch back to Chef Monica for just a second, because how do you help your staff? And I want to tie these two things together, because this is where communication in the kitchen really plays a part. Chef talked about the value and importance of, being able to communicate, have understanding, building connection and relationship. And then here's Chef Monica going through a thing in the kitchen, and your staff is still trying to put potato salad together, trying to play nurse and third degree and second degree burn doctor at the same time, saying, okay, they don't need to know what's happening in the kitchen. We just need to get all this stuff together. Chef Monica, how do you train a staff? This is for people out there saying, I need employees. I want to scale up my business. Are you a good communicator? Do you have a plan in place? What is it that they need to know? How do you train your people to stay vigilant, even in the midst of crisis in the kitchen?
I tell them at the end of the day, we still have to put this plate of food in front of this group of people. We still have a job that has to get done. In my case, I was probably considered a handicap because I have multiple sclerosis. I have a heat intolerance. So when it gets really hot, things start to happen to me. And I let them know. I always have one person. Of course, you have that one head honcho, the sous chef, whatever you want to call them. And I said, look, if I go down, you step up and do not stop. And I let them know. I said, y'all seen me in action. And I can bounce back and I will be okay. I said, you pick this boot up and you put your boots on and you run with it. And that's what I tell, and that has happened in my kitchen a couple of times. And so I had to get to the point, I can't be the hazard in this group all the time. So once I was able to let them know, I have to start out the evening. Like everybody has like a pre-shift. We talk about, this is what we're going to eat. This is what we're going to cook. This is how it's going to taste. This is what goes in it. This is where the allergens are. This is what, make sure you have this, make sure you're cleaning this. I want to see, there's a certain place you have to put your Sammy buckets. There's a certain place you have to put your soap buckets. I mean, it's a brigade. It's a brigade. And everybody has to fall in line. You have to see things have to be done a certain way. I want to see things. I mean, I was pretty strict, but I had to also do that to protect myself and anybody else that got hurt or burned in the kitchen. Because where one falls out, somebody got to go in there and pick it up, because we still got to get this job done.
I like that. When we come back after the break, there are a lot of little people out there who are interested in the industry and want to talk to these two amazing chefs about what is the process and the danger of allowing young people to participate in culinary arts. We'll be back in a moment after the break.
They said the quiet part out loud. Black votes are a threat, so they erased them. After the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act in 2013, Republican legislatures moved fast. New voter ID laws, polling place shutdowns, purges of black voters from the rolls. Trump's Justice Department didn't stop it, they joined in. In 2018, his DOJ backed Ohio's voter purge system, a scheme that disproportionately erased black voters. Their goal, erase black votes and political power. Yeah, that happened. These are the kinds of stories that we cover every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Subscribe on YouTube and download the Black Star Network app. Support fact-based independent journalism that centers African Americans and the issues that matter to our community.
Welcome back, everyone. And as you can tell, putting in the work to be a part of any type of culinary endeavor requires you to be all in, heart, mind, body, spirit, and soul. Chefs, let's talk about these little people who I watch TV. I see all these little junior chefs out there doing these baking competitions, and they're, out there, it's about that time. Halloween will be coming up and they'll be doing their little cakes and cute little things. And then there's some other little mini top chefs out there who are participating in all of these shows. And listening to you all talk, I have to ask, how young is too young to put a child through the rigors of television chefing? Chef Rock, talk to us about that.
Listen, I'll say this. I think everyone knows their children. You know your child. And I had a hard and fast rule, and I still have it. My children did not ask to be on TV. So I protected and shielded them from any sort of public. I didn't put them out there. So I wouldn't do it because, but you know, some children, I would have done it maybe if it were around and we were in this time and I was a child and I would have asked my mom, can I go on MasterChef Junior? But I don't think that, I think it's something you got to study. I don't know. Look, I'm speechless on this one because I just, I appreciate my time and what it's done for my life. I just wouldn't wish it on a child because people be mean and people are unreasonable and the public spotlight is rough. So I don't know. I think that's a very, very specific choice, but some children can handle it and some parents do a great job. I know parents with children that are out in the public eye and they do a great job of really curating their children's lives. I wouldn't do it. But some people, I think around 12, 13, 15, okay, if I were to, but I'd stay away if it were me.
Chef Monica, what are your thoughts about that, having been in the educating space?
Oh yeah, let me tell you, that was the most enlightening experience I have ever had. But it was the most endearing experience. I don't know if my students will see this. They're adults now because I had to stop teaching because of the MS. But when I was teaching, I was also asked to do classes with smaller kids, with, smaller children. And I thought, okay, so what are we going to do? We can't really, I don't want to cut. Then they want to jam in too many people in a class. I had to make them back that down. And I had to get people in there who were, chaperones. But when you're teaching high school, as I was, and I was teaching in class, and I remember I had a student that really didn't know how to boil water. And I thought, okay. I just think cooking is the easiest thing because it comes easy for me. But that was something that I had to let go of real quick. So I taught them, and these are 9th and 12th graders. These are kids who were, sometimes they may not have food when they go home. These are kids who, they went through a lot of things. Let me put it that way. So I taught them how to cook, to protect themselves in the kitchen, how to stay safe, how to stay clean, because Serve Safe is at the top of the list, but also how to cook with what they had, what was available to them. And not so much as cook for survival, but when you can teach a child or anybody how to take care of themselves and you're caring for them in the process, it positions things differently. Now, let's shift to the home front. So I have 3 adult children now. They are all athletes. I kept them on strict diets when they were in this season. But I did not let my kids in the kitchen. I would, but then I said, no, just let me do this. I didn't have the patience to teach my own kids because I'm so busy trying to protect, and then I want to teach, and then they want to branch out and they want to show that they can do it. And I'm like, stop, but as they got older, now they call me and they say, Mom, tell me that recipe. Show me how you made this. Because I remember when you used to cook this all the time. And I said, I am so embarrassed. I said, I should have taught y'all more. But I'm like, Rock, for the TV life, I don't watch the junior chef shows because I think there's too much pressure on kids. They're kids, let them be kids, let them play. Don't try to make them mini adults. That's just me. Now I'm just old fashioned. But, I guess I would probably choose high school, even teaching middle school kids.
That's interesting. And I say that because, we all had that rite of passage, being in the kitchen, adult in front or adult, right next to us, beside us, or us in front of them. We had the big bowl right there on the counter, teaching you how to crack an egg so you don't get a shell in it. Teaching you little things like how to get the eggshell out of the mix before you bake the cake. There's certain skill sets, how to turn on the fire if you're using, gas. There's so many things that I recall being young and in the kitchen that I like to cook. I don't cook as often, but my grandparents had a hamburger business. And in the summer, that's what we did. We learned, before smash burgers were a thing, that's what we learned how to make. And then my, older cousins that were boys, they would get on their bicycles and they would drive them around to the people who had ordered them. And so we learned entrepreneurship early. We learned how to work together as a family. Granny had a certain way she liked to slice her potatoes. They all had to be the same length and the same width. And for those of you who don't know, it happens by cutting off the ends so that they're all the same width and the same length. And so she was very particular, like you said, being strict. But I think what it does at a young age, it does teach responsibility, safety, and accountability. In the industry, do you find that there are transferable skills if you start out young to adulthood, just in regular life? What are some of the transferable skills that you learn from being in the kitchen that you can take into adulthood in real life? Chef or Monica?
Okay. I think coping skills. I don't see a lot of, we see the things that are going on in the different generations, but I just don't see people having coping skills anymore. I don't even see young people, but it shows you how to pace yourself, how to plan, how to think, how to process, how to do math, of course, how to do, because algebra is all up in cooking. So they might as well get ready for that. But you learn how to manage people, how to talk to people, how to work with people. I mean, it covers the gamut of everything. But the biggest thing I think that comes out that you can't really teach somebody is that they learn. I think you learn it through, intrinsic learning. I can't remember what the key word is, but the right word is. But coping skills. They just blow up. Everybody's ready to fight, going out, and that's just you can't even do that in the kitchen. You can try it, but it's still got to go. It's still got to go on. The show is on the road. You got to put the plate in front of the client and make sure they get what they paid for.
I like that coping skills, Chef Rob.
Yeah, I agree with Chef Monica. I think as I think back to when I was in the kitchen with my mother and my grandmother. You learn science, you learn math. You also, I love people, and you can learn a lot just by cooking with someone. And listening, I think that's a very big skill in this age of social media and technology, where we have devices in between us and tech in between us. When you're in the kitchen with someone, you learn sort of these interpersonal skills. Even though it's your mom or your somebody you love, you learn body language and you learn to pick up on certain social cues, right? When to be quiet, when to listen, when to assert yourself, or maybe to try. So even though no one ever told me, my grandmother did not tell me like to pay attention to her body language, but you learn these things, especially when you're serving other people at the end. You learn to watch as people eat, whether they really like it or they just telling you they like it. So there are many of these skills that transfer over that I really believe that are not as prevalent as they used to be. And, we could get back to listening and being in a community with one another and learning these skills. So, I'm with Chef Monica, the coping as well. Like somebody telling you no, or, when you burn something or you mess something up, right? When you burn it, like right now we in such trash or fire culture. There's no in between. We all make mistakes. I done burnt a couple things in my lifetime. Or I remember one time I washed my grandmother's cast iron skillet with soap and water. I thought that joint was non-stick. It was non-stick. I came around the corner. I was washing it with some Dawn, and she said, she said, oh my God, if you don't put that soap down. And luckily we seasoned it up again, and it was still non-stick. I'm pretty sure my mother still has it in our home. But you learn that, I was like, what I do? I'm just trying to be clean. So yeah, there's a lot of transfer.
Oh my God. The cast iron skillet is the one thing that never gets washed. It gets wiped out with a paper towel, and then you sit it over there in the corner and you keep it moving.
That's right.
I definitely appreciate, and I know we're going to go to a break shortly, but both of you got me thinking about the word attentiveness. And I hear you all, and I like going to a scratch kitchen because you get to hear and see everything that's happening in the restaurant. And I always hear two words, heard and yes, chef.
Yeah.
How important are listening skills, Chef Monica, in the kitchen and the role that it plays in getting that plate to the table?
I take something that I used to do with my high school kids, and I let them know how important they are to me. I said, look, baby, I can get another knife, but I cannot get another you. I say, so if this knife falls, you are to step back and you are to shout knife. That way everybody knows, okay, if I'm walking around the kitchen and I'm walking from the prep sink to the dish sink because I need to wash my knife, you need to be walking behind me. When you walk, you need to be saying knife, because that knife is supposed to be exceptionally sharp. If I call out something, I don't need to hear crickets because I don't know if you heard me or you didn't. So it needs to be, yes, yeah. I mean, it might not be in unison, but I need to know you heard me and you get it. If you don't get it, then you ask me so we can make sure that it goes through. Communication is key. It is the lifeline. The clock and communication, those are the two things in there, because that's how things get lost, get stuck in the oven, it's burnt, you can't find it. Somebody didn't know they weren't supposed to put sugar. They didn't know the difference between sugar and salt. I mean, you never know. And you got to make sure to taste it as they're going, and you got to be watching them, and you need to be talking like, is this sauce? Did you do this? Did you do that? Is it's constant.
Mm. Chef Rock.
Our brains are so complicated, and we take in so much information that we're not conscious of at the time. And I'm thinking about when you say listening, I'm the fried chicken king. I tell everybody this: can't nobody fried chicken better than me, other than somebody's aunt or grandmother, mama in the kitchen. And professionally, can't nobody deal with me. But people say, well, how do you know when it's done? That old saying, it's done. What'd your mother say? It's done when it's done.
When it's done.
Right. And I'm pointing to my ear and I'm touching my ear because whether it's sauteing a piece of fish or when you're searing or frying chicken, or even if you're knocking on bread or testing a watermelon, you're inputting this information that might not be consciously aware of, but listening, you can hear when something is finished, or I can hear if the temperature gauge is off because the bubbles aren't right. And I wouldn't necessarily say it doesn't sound right, but I can hear. And if you're not, the one thing you will never do in any of my kitchens is wear headphones, right? During prep, when we are off into our own little corners and you want to get a little music going, that's cool. But when we're supposed to be communicating, you got to take them out. You got to take the AirPods out, because we have to be in tune, especially when there are guests around. We have to be listening, and you're taking in this information, and it's so vital, not only the cooking or the safety, as Monica said, but everything around you. If you got something blocking, you miss the world and you miss the opportunity to serve people, including yourself and those folks in the kitchen. So listening, such a big skill. And we always have to continue to hone it.
Mm. Okay, I know we're going to go to break, and I'm going to give this as an example, because when Chef said you had to hear and you have to know. So I was at a recent restaurant and I ordered some chicken wings, and I am a chicken wing snob. And I know this about myself. There's a word called teethy, and people may not understand it, but chicken has to have a certain bite to it to know that it is actually done. And I asked for my wings to be extra crispy. So I got extra crispy on the outside and raw on the inside, because whoever was in the kitchen didn't understand that the chicken has to be cooked first from the inside slow so that it gets done. And then you can deal with everything else on the outside. And I will not say that it's the first time that I've had people not know how to prepare poultry. And I don't know. When we come back after the break, let's talk about that, because there's some foods that seem to be hard to cook. So when we come back after the break, let's dive in a little bit about chicken, because I know everybody enjoys it, those of you who eat it that are not vegan or vegetarian. And then we're going to dive in a little bit about how do you scale up your business. You want to go places. You're doing a great job, but you got to know how to get there. And these experts will let you know. We'll be back in a moment after the break.
y'all. Welcome to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network and hosted by myself, Bria Baker, and my good sis, Jamira Burley. We are just two millennial women tackling everything at the intersection of politics, gender, and pop culture.
And we don't just settle for commentary. This is about solution-driven dialogue to get us to the world as it could be and not just as it is.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to The Other Side of Change.
Welcome back, everybody. I was telling my chicken wing story because I'm a chicken wing snob. I love chicken wings. I used to not cheat on my chicken wing spot, but they got sloppy. I had to move on. So chefs, let's talk about that for a moment. Because when we go to certain places, we expect a certain quality of food. I mean, if you say you do a thing, you need to be able to do a thing. You know what I'm saying? And so let's have the poultry conversation, because I think there are two items: shrimp and chicken. How do people get them wrong?
I tell you this, oh my goodness, there's so much to say, brain overload. One thing is that it starts in the grass or in the land. So it depends on where you buy your chicken. Mm-hmm. Right. So the cheapest chicken is going to be tough. You got to understand these chickens start out, and they're not even farms. Many of these chickens start out in these constantly called CAFOs, concentrated animal feeding operations. They're just factories. And the way they treat their animals, many of, not all the chicken, but many of the chicken that we get is just going to be tough. If you have a breast that's 2 pounds in size, that's just half of a part of a chicken, right? So imagine how big the chicken has, and they probably grew it in 6 to 8 weeks. So it's just not healthy, and the meat is going to be tough. There's no love in it. There's bad energy in it. So the first part is you have to get a good chicken, right? And then once you get that, I mean, the simplest way is put a thermometer in it, Slim, like 165. Raw chicken is a big no-no. But I think, it is the other testament. People don't taste and test their product. We get in this factory mindset, especially if you're a wing place, but we're a chicken place. And my people know we cook everything to order, and we're testing. We're not taking bites of chicken, but we're actually, every single one gets the same amount of love. And you can't treat it like a factory. So, but the easiest thing, y'all, is the thermometer. Come on, 165 or better.
I can definitely appreciate that, because, there are a lot of wing places, and I was actually at a restaurant. They said they had kitchen and bar under their name. So I thought they knew what they were doing. So. But not fancy enough to put the thermometer in there, obviously. And I know there are other people who have horror stories with food and chicken. Chicken, salmon, shrimp. There are a couple of dishes, Chef Monica, that they do this. They're just rubbery, dangly. They're chewy. What is happening to people? Are they just, chef, just get tired?
I think what happens is people, it goes back to what Rock said. People get into that factory mindset. Okay, let me get this through. Let me hurry up. And I think you've got people who are just willing to cut a corner and think, well, if there's a piece of shrimp bad in here, it's probably just one, and they're going to have everything else is going to be right. But you cannot treat your food like that. Everything from beginning to end has to get the same amount of love. When we used to send out plates, the first plate better look good and taste as great as the second one, as the last one. You just didn't make compromises. And I think when you get something, goes back to communication. If I had somebody in there, and I would tell people, look, I have a learning kitchen. That's what I ran. I had people that had never been a chef or they could cook, but they wanted to be a chef. I said, well, I'm gonna show you what it's like. I said, but you're gonna have to follow what I tell you to do. And if you get something you don't know how to use it or anything about it, how long to cook it, you need to raise your hand, or you need to come, not raise your hand, but you need to come over and you need to ask. We need to sit down, or we need to walk through it. Usually I try to walk through the menu the day before, because I have my own standards, as I know Chef Rod does too, of how I want things cooked and prepared. This is how I want to filter this through the kitchen, and this is the flow of this particular meat, or cake, or bread, or an omelet, whatever it is. But you have to show them, and if they miss it, then that's a whole nother thing. But I just think people get caught in communication. We're like, well, I don't want to act like I don't know how to do it because my mama, I don't care what your mama used to do. You in my kitchen. And what you not gonna do is make me look bad. Now that is a yeah, that's a guarantee promise from me. So no, we ain't gonna look foolish out here. But you, and then I have to. No, I'm sorry, and I have to go back and make sure it's right too. Make sure that what I said needs to be done got done.
I like that. So what I hear you both saying, consistency is an important part of not only being in the kitchen, but also in how you run your business. I want to start with Chef Rock, because you have 2 restaurants. You've recently done a rebrand, and you have a bar, and in the restaurant, you're doing some amazing things. How did you know when it was time to scale your business and start adding to your menu, adding to your restaurant, opening a second location, pursuing the things that you have done?
You know, Dr. Jacquie, you are like a strategic master. So I think you'll appreciate this. And Chef Monica, you said something earlier about business plans. I think that, you know, often we as restaurateurs in any culture, but, you know, I know Black people, you know, I talk to a lot of Black restaurateurs and chefs. We often lead with the art, right? We can cook, and we often ignore, and I'll count myself in this category early on in my career, we often ignore the math of it. I remember one time I had a few years ago when we were trying to, I was going to expand Queen Mother's, and my accountant was on the call with this Cloud Kitchen. There's this place called Cloud Kitchen. It was a horrible restaurant deal, but he put it on paper. He said, yeah, you could do it. We did the rent. The rent might've been, let's just say, I don't know, $5,000. And he said, here's how many chicken sandwiches. He broke it down to the chicken sandwich. Here's how many chicken sandwiches you have to sell on a slow day and on a busy day. Do you think you can do that? And my accountant at the time was he was just like, he wasn't emotional about it. He's a numbers guy. He was just like, you have to sell 300 chicken sandwiches a day or whatever it was. And I knew at that point, like, I can't sell 300 chicken sandwiches. And it was in a Cloud Kitchen where there were 20 other businesses, and they couldn't guarantee me that they wouldn't put another fried chicken place in there. And this was just in one building. So to scale, you have to understand the strategy, the business plan, and you just have to look at it got to get your emotion out of it and look at it from a very practical standpoint. Right now in DC, our economy is under attack by this administration. Our local economy is being attacked. And it's, you know, people are losing their jobs, and people are going out or have been going out less with this police invasion. You have to look at things practically. I know, as great as I think I am, Chef Rock, a bad man, but at the end of the day, the numbers are not going to lie, and you can't force your art on mass. So when scaling, one, before even knowing the numbers, you have to know what you're scaling, right? Many of these companies, you have to know your unique value distinguisher or product. So what are you selling, right? Are you selling convenience in the case of like fast food restaurants? Because it's garbage food, but it's really quick. You can get it in 90 seconds. Or are you selling, you know, the art, or are people the comfort of your place? Because oftentimes it's not just the food, or it's not just the drink. It's about how you're positioned in the market or on the block. And then once you understand what you're selling, see on paper, talk to people, professionals, accountants, and other strategists to see if it can scale. Like, just because my restaurant is great in National Landing does not mean it's going to scale in Birmingham or Manhattan. So scaling requires the 10,000 foot view. You got to step back out of your emotions and talk about what it's going to take and see if it can actually work.
Absolutely. Chef Monica.
That is awesome. Yeah, you really do. You have to sit back. You got to look at your area. I'm telling you, everything goes back to the business plan. It's kind of like what I tell everybody in the kitchen. I say that the menu controls everything. The menu determines everything. But the business plan is where you have to go back to, because once you get in the habit of looking at numbers and looking at what it is you're selling, what you're good at, what not, what's actually selling that you're really good at, or what may need some work, how you need to massage the business plan or your menu items. You have to look at that. You can't get caught up in the social media aspect of this whole process, because it's fun to watch all these fabulous dishes that look good go across the screen. And I always say, what everything that look good don't taste good. Now, and that tip I give to my my pre-college students before they go off, and they know what I mean. So you can't get caught up in, we just gotta make that. No, no, no. There's a process that food has to go through. There's a process that you have to keep it safe. There are all these things that you have to be able to do. And when you get in a political system where we're being mushed down, is the best way I can put it. How do you adjust? All of this stuff comes back. So everything at that point goes back to the plan, working with your numbers. How many people can you keep on staff? Can you pay yourself? Can you buy? What has happened with the product? Has that gone up? The price of this, everything has elevated in the grocery store, and that's got to follow. That's going to fall right back to the customer. So, or how can you make it so it's still enjoyable, but it may not necessarily fall to the customer, but you're just having to recreate it or transition that dish into something else. But don't get caught up. Social media is new for all of us, and all of us have got to realize that some of the things that we're all seeing it for the first time. We don't know how to deal with it. We don't know how it's going to work. We just go with it. Everybody's just kind of like, well, I'm just going to do like spaghetti, throw it against the wall and see if it sticks. Don't do that, because I don't do that. But that's the concept of what I see happening around. And I just have to tell young people, look, be yourself and make sure you are doing the work. But you have to test things out. Mm-hmm. And you have to make sure. Yeah, I mean, if you don't, they see it on social media and they're like, it didn't really work.
Yeah, I don't think things work the way people think they do. So, Chef Monica, since you're already speaking, and then I'll ask the same question to Chef Rock, what is the one tip that you would give to either an aspiring chef or a chef already in the industry who needs to figure out how to pivot in this economy? What would you tell them?
Know why they cook. That to me, that's what gets at the heart of it. You have to know why you're cooking. I cook because I like watching people eat. I like watching people eat my food. I like watching people eat great food. I like watching people eat the flavors that I put together. I like watching people eat the things that I've created. I like watching people leave my table and not have to go to sleep unless they decided to, if they wanted to eat too much, but that their health is still intact, they're still good, and they feel good about what they ate mentally and physically. Why Absolutely. Do you cook?
Why do you cook? Chef Rock Harper.
Listen, that's you preaching right there, Chef Monica. You definitely have to, I want to reiterate that if I can. There's a practice where you ask yourself why 6 times. Why, you give an answer, and then why to that answer. And you keep going until you get to the core of why you're truly doing it. Because oftentimes, when I was growing up in the food industry, it was just restaurant guy. Like, it was restaurant, a little bit of TV. Now we realize, there always have been, but we really realize that there's so much in this industry that you can do so many different things. So really finding out what your lane is going to be, but you have to do some deep research within yourself. So before you get into this business, or you go further or do a pivot, this is the big thing that I would say, especially in the Black chef community, is that share and reach out to folk, right? Everybody's not going to say yes, and everybody's not going to let you so-called pick their brain, but learn from those around you. We have this individualistic mindset has really taken over much of us, not just Black people, but much of American minds. And it is counterproductive. You can't do anything by yourself. So I would say, reach out. And even if, I have mentors that don't even know they're mentoring me, right? I might go on YouTube and just search everything that they've said and everything that they've done and write it down so as to not make the same mistakes that they have. But we have this idea that we need to be the first to market or the first to do this, or I'm gonna beat that person. Competition is great. I love to win. But what I'm getting at here is that we have to reach into the power that we have. And the power is those that have done it before us, right? As great as a phone-free bar sounds, I'm not the first person to have a space of convening that is away from communication devices. If we're thinking about that, right? A space of seclusion or a safe space for gathering. I'm not the first to do that. So that means that there are other people for centuries that have done this. So that means that I need to speak to folk. And as I'm building it, as I'm trying to make money off of it. So no matter how old you are, how young you are, I would definitely say, please, please, please reach out to those that have done it. Humbly reach out to those that have done it before. And some people might say, nah, I ain't got no time for you today. That's cool. Go on to the next person. You might just get one answer that can really change your outlook or really put you on the right path.
When we come back, I'll give my reflection after the break.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase, and I'm here with a very important message. We are at a turning point in the Black community where we must have equity in the apps we use that scale to billions of dollars. But this time, we own the infrastructure, we own the culture, and we shape the future. And Fanbase is the future. Fanbase combines the free functionality of Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube into an all-in-one platform built for the evolution of social media and monetization. With over 1.4 million users, that's real proof that we are shifting the conversation of tech ownership and equity for creators. So right now, I want you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $665 a share. This marks a turning point in Black ownership of social media. If we don't take this opportunity to own social media right now, we will always be customers to our own creations. And that can't go on. So once again, go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. We must own the platforms where our voices live, our stories matter, and where our culture drives the world. Thank you.
Welcome back, everybody. And as you can see, putting in the work, a chef's journey requires you to be all in, not halfway in, not part the way in. You have to be all in. Put all your senses into it. Understand what is your why. Make certain that you have the ability to communicate. Make certain that you have people around you who want to pour into you, but also make sure you know that it's the reason and your purpose for getting up in the morning. This is what it means to not only get into the chef space, but also what it means to desire to put money and resources into being able to open a restaurant, get a food truck, put on a side hustle, do a few pop-ups. However you decide to step into the space, make certain that you're doing it for all the right reasons. Our chefs today have given you some great insight, so I hope that you'll take it and run with it. Have a great day, and thanks for watching. Bye now.